Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. Arab country in recent months to normalize ties with Israel in a U.S. brokered deal. As a part of the deal, the United States agreed to recognize Morocco's sovereignty over the Western Sahara. The United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Sudan have already normalized relations with Israel. In India, farmer unions say they will block railway tracks and roads across the country if their demands are not met. Protesters against the centre's controversial new agricultural laws have entered the 16th day. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says there is a strong possibility that the United Kingdom will fail to strike a post-Brexit trade deal with the EU. Speaking for the first time since meeting the EU chief Ursula von der Leyen in Brussels, Johnson told firms to prepare for a no-deal outcome. Brazil has reported 770 more deaths from COVID-19, with the toll approaching 180,000. Meanwhile, the virus has claimed more than 142,000 lives in India and infected 9.7 million people. Pakistan recorded 50 new deaths and just over 3,000 new cases overnight, while its death tally exceeded 8,600. Globally, there have been more than 1.58 million deaths and over 69.5 million infections. And in golf, American Amy Olsen has grabbed the first-round lead at the U.S. Women's Open in Houston. Olsen shot a 4-under par 67 at the Cypress Creek course of Champions Golf Club. A hole-in-one helped Olsen gain an advantage over Japan's Hinako Shibuno, Thailand's Moira Juntungara, and South Korea's A-Lim Kim. For news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. In India, farmers' unions say they will block railway tracks and roads across the country if their demands are not met. Protesters against Central's controversial new agricultural laws have entered the 16th day. Farmers' leader Bhutta Singh said that the date for paralyzing the country's rail and road traffic will be announced soon. Meanwhile, a farmer group has moved the Supreme Court against the reforms. It argues that the laws make farmers vulnerable to corporate greed and exploitation. There are now 6 petitions pending hearing in the top court. The Pakistan Army says Indian troops have wounded a 55-year-old civilian in an unprovoked ceasefire violation along the line of control. In a tweet, the military's media wing said that the Indian forces targeted a civil population with heavy weapons in the Hot Springs sector. It said that the wounded woman was taken to the hospital. Pakistani forces responded effectively to the Indian attack, targeting posts from where the attack originated. The Indian occupation forces have carried out over 2,000 ceasefire violations this year so far. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says peace in Afghanistan will facilitate economic development. He said this during a meeting with Afghan ambassador to Pakistan, Najibullah Ali Khail. Qureshi said that Pakistan welcomes a recent agreement on rules and procedures between the Afghan parties in Doha. He said Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to Afghanistan came after sustained engagements between the two countries. Afghan envoy lauded Islamabad's positive contributions to peace process. In Pakistan, 50 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, pushing the toll to 8,653. The health ministry says over 3,000 people tested positive for the virus overnight. The ministry said there are more than 44,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said out of more than 432,000 countrywide cases, over 379,000 have recovered so far. The ministry said some 191,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported nearly 126,000 cases. In the capital, Islamabad, over 34,000 people have been infected so far. Brazil has reported 770 more deaths from COVID-19, with a toll approaching 180,000. Meanwhile, the virus has claimed more than 142,000 lives in India and infected 9.7 million people. Globally, there have been more than 1.58 million deaths and over 69.5 million infections. More in this report.
As countries inch closer to acquiring a COVID-19 vaccine, the apparent pre-dawn era has made it the toughest run in the pandemic's history. Across the U.S., healthcare systems are bursting at the seams with more than 107,000 coronavirus patients in hospitals. They are arranging vaccine prep kits and deep freezers as regulatory authorities endorse the Pfizer vaccine. Meanwhile, internal disagreements over procuring the vaccine from China have stoked differences in Brazil. Argentina has signed a deal with Russia to procure 10 million doses of the Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine.
We have signed the contract with the Sovereign Fund of the Russian Federation that guarantees us the provision of Russian vaccines for Argentina. The contract says that we will be able to have enough doses to vaccinate 10 million Argentinians between January and February.
The UK says every secondary school student in London will be tested for COVID-19. While Spain says at least 1 out of every 1,000 residents has died of the virus. Meanwhile, Paris has announced a delay in the reopening of cultural venues and a nighttime curfew.
Mardi prochain.
Next Tuesday on December 15th, as we had announced, we will start a new phase in easing the lockdown. But the rules will be stricter than we previously thought. First decision, the venues which welcome the public, which we had planned to reopen on December 15th, will remain closed for an extra 3 weeks. The conditions for the reopening are unfortunately not there.
Australia has halted the production of its homemade vaccine after trials showed the jabs can interfere with HIV diagnosis, while South Korea's ultra-cold warehouses are preparing to store Pfizer's vaccine, as Seoul is set to buy 20 million vaccine doses.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that there is a strong possibility that the United Kingdom will fail to strike a post-Brexit trade deal with the EU. Speaking for the first time since the meeting with EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen in Brussels, Johnson told firms to prepare for a no-deal outcome. He said Brussels wanted to lock London in its legal system, which made it much more difficult to reach an argument. While Lynn told 27 national EU leaders in Brussels that the bridging persistent differences in the UK trade talks was difficult, the two sides have set a deadline of Sunday to final the agreement and prevent a chaotic break. Several political groups in Palestine have condemned Morocco's plans to normalize ties with Israel. In a statement, Hamas spokesperson Hazim Qasim said that it is a political move sin, which harms the Palestinian cause. He said Morocco's actions encourage the Israeli forces to continue violating the rights of Palestinians. He said normalization deals will increase Israeli aggression and its settlement activities on Palestinian lands. Earlier, United States President Donald Trump announced that Israel and Morocco have agreed to forge diplomatic relations. Morocco became the fourth nation to normalize ties with Israel in return for U.S. recognition of Rabat's sovereignty over Western Sahara. In Libya, the eastern-based forces say they have released a Turkish ship seized near the port city of Derna on Monday. The incident drew an ear of Ankara, which backs the opposing sides in Libya's civil war. Earlier, the National Libyan Army said that it intercepted the Turkish ship under the Jamaican flag, heading to the port of Misrata. Turkey strongly condemned the interception of its vessel in the Mediterranean and warned of a possible reprisal. Ankara's foreign ministry said that targeting Turkish interests in Libya will have grave consequences. In Syria, 4 people have been killed in a car bomb explosion in the Turkish-controlled region of Ras al-Ain. A Turkish official said the bomb was detonated at a checkpoint in the northern border of the town. 2 Turkish police personnel and as many members of local Syrian security forces were killed, but the Syrian Observatory of Human Rights said that at least 16 people were killed in the explosion. Turkey seized control of the town last year after an offensive to push back militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party. The United States Africa Command has killed 8 militant commanders of the Al-Qaeda's Al-Shabaab. In a statement, the AFRICOM said that it carried out 2 airstrikes on the group. It said that the airstrikes in the vicinity of Jilib City were conducted in coordination with the Somali government. The command assessed that no civilians were injured or killed in the operation. Meanwhile, AFRICOM Commander General Stephen Townsend said that the United States will continue striking those who harm it or its allies. This comes days after the Pentagon said that it will pull out a majority of its troops from Somalia. The United States has announced sanctions against 17 officials of China and other foreign governments for human rights violations. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said individuals from El Salvador and Jamaica have been sanctioned. The Treasury Department also blacklisted human rights abusers in Yemen, Haiti, and Russia, including Chechen leader Ramzan Radkov. In a statement, it said that in addition, Kadyrov, it had sanctioned 6 companies in Russia as well as 5 people. It also sanctioned 5 people connected to Yemen's Houthi-controlled security and intelligence agencies. Meanwhile, Britain sanctioned 11 individuals, including the former president of the Gambia, Yahya Jammeh. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Biegun says that the engagement with North Korea must continue. Speaking in Seoul, Washington's top North Korea envoy said that he was disappointed over the stalling of denuclearization talks, but he said that Washington is not done with Pyongyang. Biegun said that the United States has urged the North to be ready to make progress on the denuclearization. The Deputy Secretary of State called for North Korea to resume talks in the coming months.
Despite setbacks, disappointments, and missed opportunities over the past 2 years, I believe no less today than the day I first took this responsibility that the vision of President Trump and Chairman Kim is possible and that we are not done.
It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Walt Disney has announced a raft of new Star Wars content for movie theaters and its streaming service. It includes a feature film from Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins. More in this report.
Disney has an exciting announcement for its Star Wars and Marvel fans.
Action.
The entertainment company has unveiled plans for a major expansion of its franchises on the Disney Plus subscription streaming service. It will detail 10 new TV shows based on favorite characters from the sci-fi saga, including Smuggler, Lando Calrissian, and droids C-3PO and R2-D2. The Patty Jenkins feature film called Rogue Squadron will premiere in movie theaters at the Christmas 2023. Disney also announced a new spy series called Andor featuring Rogue One Rebel Alliance intelligence officer Cassian Andor that started filming in London 2 weeks ago. More Star Wars animated series The Bad Batch and A Droid Story are also in the works. Disney Plus, which launched just over a year ago, now has 86.8 million subscribers, a figure far exceeding its predictions for customer growth.
International travel was the biggest casualty of the coronavirus pandemic, but the way cinema brought the home of joy with a white Christmas to many. It doesn't snow in Dubai, or does it? Either way, a cinema at Al Futtaim's Mall of the Emirates decided to bring some winter vibes to the people who were unable to travel back home for the holidays due to the coronavirus pandemic.
It's a fabulous idea. I think with what's going on in the world at the moment and people aren't able to travel, to be able to bring Christmas here in the snow, in the winter. Well, to give them a wintry experience, especially people that are, who experience, white Christmases. This is kind of perfect.
Dubai residents wrapped up in blankets attended the opening of the cinema hosted by a ski complex. Surrounded by snow and Christmas decorations, people sipped on hot chocolate and watched a movie.
The difficulty to travel right now and how people aren't able to travel for Christmas now. So it is a really nice experience because you really do feel you are in Christmas. The decoration, all the minor details, the colors, the hot chocolate, the warmth, it's all great. I advise people to come and try it.
Snow Cinema is the latest innovation from Vox Cinemas, which was launched in the Middle East's only operating drive-in cinema in response to the temporary closure of leisure and entertainment venues during the global pandemic. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific are trading mixed. Investors are cautious over rising coronavirus cases, U.S. stimulus negotiations, as well as Brexit talks between the UK and the European Union. Mainland Chinese stocks fell over 1%, while the Nikkei 225 and the Topix index in Japan declined marginally. Australian bourses also slipped, with the ASX 200 shedding over 0.5%. But South Korea's Kospi has gained nearly 1%, while the Hang Seng index in Hong Kong has also edged up. And in golf, American Amy Olsen has grabbed the first round lead in the U.S. Women's Open in Houston. Olsen shot a 4-under par 67 at the Cypress Creek course of Champions Golf Club. A hole-in-one helped Olsen gain an advantage over Japan's Hinako Shibuno, Thailand's Mora Juntangurn, and South Korea's A-Lim Kim. Olsen, who also began on the back 9 at Cypress Creek, aced the 16th hole with a 139-yard shot. The ball bounced a couple of times and rolled onto the cup. 7 other players are tied for 5th place at 2 under par. Only 23 of the 156 players in the field finished under par in the first round. In football, Belgium have been crowned FIFA's Team of the Year for a 3rd straight time after retaining the top spot. They won 6 games this year and booked their place in the next UEFA Nations League finals. The top 4 remain unchanged, with France finishing 2nd, Brazil at 3rd, and England staying for 4th. Portugal moved up to 5th, while Spain and Argentina moved to 2 places to finish 6th and 7th, respectively. Hungary were the most improved side in all the rankings, having gained 44 points and 12 places to break into the top 50. It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.